What's up, YouTube? JankyYGO here. My name is Michael. We're going to be going over the goatee archetype, and then we're going to be talking about the rarities in Power of the Elements. We're going to be doing that because that next set is going to be very important for the metagame going forward. But for now, let's just talk about the new ECG Premier archetype, the goatee. So there are a bunch of fish that care about being banished, and that's all I know about them. So we got Goatee of the Deep Beyond. I think we covered this card, but if we didn't, I'll go over this card again. The level 10 water fish synchro with question mark attack, 0 defense, and requires one or more fish tuners plus one or more non-tuner monsters. During the original attack of this card becomes 500 times the number of banished monsters. If this card is synchro summoned during your opponent's turn, you can banish all cards from the field during the standby phase of the next turn. After this card was banished from the monster zone, you can special summon this banished card. So, I don't know exactly what the goatees do off the top of my head. I have seen some cards here and there, and I know that they do involve synchro summoning on your opponent's turn. So, that if this card is synchro summoned effect is a very relevant effect because you could just summon it, banish all your opponent's monsters or cards at the right time, and can be very disruptive. Assuming, like I said, assuming that like everything kind of worked out. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know exactly what they do. I just know that they do synchro summon on your opponent's turn. So if that's the case, if you can do it at any time, kind of like Tristran's or Yang Zing's, that first effect is wild and pretty powerful. If you can't, then yeah, it's meh. But I guess since it's because if it says if it's synchro summoned, if it just said if it was special summoned, it wouldn't be as bad because of this effect rate. But let's just go on to Moray of Avarice. Oh, what is that? It's like a Moray of Greed. It's like a fucking pot of avarice, but it's like a oh god. All right, finish one face up. Fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster you control. Draw 2 cards. Only activate one Moray of Avarice per turn. So the fact that it has to be one that you control kind of sucks, in my honest opinion. It's going negative, but it does work with stuff like Goatee of the Deep Beyond because you're banishing it. You draw 2 cards during the standby phase. Your opponent's standby phase, mind you, it comes back. It's not that bad, but it is. It's better than Moray of Greed, but it is still not an amazing card. I think it only really works in this deck, if I'm being honest. So yeah. Also, I know that there's other fish cards that care about banishing stuff, so maybe I'll build a deck around that because that sounds kind of fun. Like I know there's a counter trap called O Fish. But yeah, let's move on to Species, the Light of the Goatee. It is a level 2 water tuner or fish tuner effect with 0 attack, 0 defense. You can banish this card. You control the special summon 1 fish from your hand except for itself. During the standby phase, after this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card. During your opponent's main phase, if the card was special summoned this turn, quick effect, immediately after this card resolves, synchro summon 1 fish synchro monster you control. You can only use each effect of it once per turn. So, okay, so this does allow you to summon their big boss monster synchro during the opponent's main phase. Hopefully during, at the right time to just completely disrupt all their plays and just shut them out of the game. I think that if you do it at the right time, it definitely will be very detrimental and can completely blow them out of the water. So that's very cool. We're gonna move to Gift Fairy of the Goatee. Banish this card from your graveyard. Target 1 fish monster you control. It gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. During the standby phase of the next turn after this card is banished. Okay, so the tuners all have that effect. So I'm gonna say they have just the goatee effect and everything like that. I don't know if the non-tuners have that or not, but if they don't, I'll read those. But the unique effect is you banish it from your graveyard to give fish 500 attack, which not very good. But the whole point is to banish it so that you get that all that good stuff to summon itself to the opponent's field and all that. That's kind of the idea of this deck, is to keep banishing your cards, is to banish all your fish and then summon them on your opponent's turn, and then at the right time during the main phase, you synchro summon into the big one, and then you blow out your opponent, everything like that with the whole if it's synchro summon banish. That's kind of the idea of this deck. And that is pretty cool. Like I said, I'll definitely try to build a deck around this, and if I come up with anything competent, I'll do a deck profile and stuff like that on it. But overall, this card is pretty okay. I'm not a fan of its first effect, but you might just play it for the name. We're gonna move to, oh gosh, Enoch, Century of the Goatee. It's a level 6 water fish effect monster. It is a 2100 attack, 0 defense. If this is normal or special, you can target one of your banished 4 or lower fish monsters, special summon defense, but its effects are negated. You can banish one fish monster from your hand or face up field to add one goatee trap card from your deck to your hand. Okay, this isn't bad, especially because well, this with the first card, the one that banishes itself, the special summon one from your hand. If you draw this, for example, you summon it, you get to summon one of your goatees back, and you can banish one fish, or you can just banish one fish from your hand. All that to which could be this one right here, for example, the fairy, to search the trap and all that. So you're going to want to keep this card on the field when you pass turn to your opponent and have the other two cards there, and so that you can special summon them back. So yeah, that's kind of what you want to do in this situation, because it says one or more fish tuners. So you could use multiple fish tuners to make the level 10 synchro. So you summon that, synchro summon, make this on your opponent, or make the level 10 using this on your opponent's turn. Definitely a good card. I don't know how much you play of it though. Maybe 2 of, maybe less. Maybe 1 or 2 of at most, though, because it is a level 6. So keep that in mind. It will brick because it has no way to summon itself. Ascon, the bicorn doki, is a level 8 water fish synchro effect, 2700 attack, and its material with 0 defense, and its tuners are 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuners. Because it's a level 8, the idea of this card is to, when you summon only one of your goatee back, or if you summon Enoch, Century of the Goat Tree, you can summon this immediately. But if this card is synchro summon, you can target one fish monster you control and one card your opponent controls, banish them. If this card is banished, you can banish one fish monster in your graveyard, special summon this card. Okay, so the idea of this card is to, once again, you go into this, you banish one of your goat trees or goatee from your graveyard and stuff like that, and get rid of one card your opponent controls as well. It's going to come back immediately, and then on your opponent's standby phase, it's going to summon itself back. You're going to synchro summon during your opponent's turn, and you're going to banish all of your opponent's cards. That's kind of the idea. I think this card is also pretty good for this archetype. It's kind of like a extender. It's a good go second type of thing, because you get rid of a card and then you banish all this stuff. Also, you can alternatively summon this on your opponent's turn, get rid of one of their cards, right? And then get this back and have available, if they can keep going, to make the level 10. That's the other thing that you can do with this card. and stuff like that. It allows you to guarantee that you can get that effect, kind of. So yeah, as long as you have two of the tuners. So their field spell, while you control a is the most distant, deepest depth, and while you control a fish synchro, this card cannot be destroyed or banished by card effects. The following effects you can only use once per turn. You can banish one fish from your hand or graveyard. Add one goatee monster from your deck to your hand. If a fish is normal or special summon to your field while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can target one fish monster you control, banish it, and if you do, you add this card to your hand. Okay, so this card allows you to, it's your searcher. It also steps up because the banishing of a fish is not a bad thing as long as you're banishing the tuners. Um, and on top of all that, what this allows you to do is it gets you your play starters and stuff like that, and as well as it adds itself back from the graveyard to your hand. So if they do get rid of it, you're perfectly fine. Overall, it's a pretty good card. You probably play it just because of it seems pretty decent for the deck. And then the last card we're talking about is the Goatee Chain. It is a normal trap where you banish one fish monster you control to special summon one Goatee that is banished or in your hand, deck, or graveyard with a different original name from the monster that was banished to activate this effect, but you banish it when it leaves the field. So that's not a downside at all. Banishing it when it leaves the field isn't a downside whatsoever. And on top of that, this gets you another fish, and it gets you a tuner from your deck, and when it's banished, it's going to come back anyway. So this card is actually pretty good. Plus, it is searchable. So if you go first, you can set up this thing where on your opponent's turn, you have multiple forms of disruption, and that's very, very good in my opinion. So, do I think this deck will be meta? Well, it's hard to say. I don't really think it can compete with Splight or TR Element, but I do think it is a fun looking deck at the very least, and I'm interested in seeing what people do with it. So let's move to the rarities. So here are the rarities for the Starlights. We only have two of the Starlights, and that's also the Earth Channeler and Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. Also, the Earth Channeler is very similar to Wind. It searches by discarding. It searches an Earth by discarding another Earth. Then you can only activate Earths. That's what it does. And then Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, very powerful card. Everyone knows what that card does. All right, so for the important secret rares, we have Bright Blue, Exo Sister Martha, Tearlament, Kaleido Heart, and I think that's it. For the meta relevant cards, if you're wondering why I said Exo Sister, well, Exo Sister has a good matchup against Tearlament and against Sprite. So, yeah, that's why it's here. If you Sprite Blue is gonna be like one of the you need three of, and Tier Element, Kaleido Heart, I believe is the I don't remember if that's the big fusion or not. If it's the big fusion, you only need two. I'm pretty sure it is the big fusion, and you only need two of it for the deck. It's not necessary to run a three of because it's an extra deck. But it is a very good card for the deck. It's kind of like the boss monster and the end thing, and it can be made on your opponent's turn for good disruption. Exo Sister Martha is a good, pretty much one card starter for your deck, for the Exo Sister deck. And Sprite Blue is their searcher, and it's very, very important for the deck. Those are very important. If you want to play Goatee, Goatee of the Deep Beyond is the secret to get. The rest of these cards, I don't really know what they do. I don't think most of them are going to be meta relevant, so we're just going to kind of skip over them. But those are the cards we're talking about in the secret. As you can see, though, Tear Element and Sprites only have one secret rare apiece in their deck. That is pretty low rarity considered um, what is happening in the OCG or what happened in the OCG, where Sprite was basically a tier 0 deck with tier limit only being able to complete once we got these Shizu cards. So that's pretty wild. And then tier limits, now that they're the most meta relevant deck in the OCG, the fact that they only have one secret is pretty alarmingly low, which is wild to me. But yeah, we're gonna move on to the ultras. So here are the important ultra rares that I know of because I didn't look at all these cards do. Element Rhino Heart, uh, Element Talos, Sprite Starter, and Sprite Elf. These are the super important ones for the meta relevant decks. Um, Rhino Heart is a foolish burial, and if it's sent to the graveyard, it summons itself back. So that's really good for that deck. Kitalos is a searcher slash foolish burial, and it also mills 5, which is very good for that deck. Gigantic Sprite and Sprite Elf are the two extra deck cards, and they're very important. You need these cards. You need at least 2 or 3 of them in the deck, very least, to make this deck playable. You can probably get away with 2 each if you can't afford the third one, but you definitely need those. But unfortunately, Sprite Starter you absolutely need 3 of, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts around that. You need 3 of that card. So, yeah. We're going to move to the super rares, and then after that, we're not going to talk about any of the other cards. So, the important super rares are Bright Jet, Element Shrin, and I think that's it. I don't really see anything necessary for the meta relevant decks, unless this card is really good and I just am overlooking it. But oh, uh, Loris, Lady of Lament is okay um in the Layer of Darkness version of Labyrinth that's coming out, but that's that's not for till the end of August. Well, this is at the beginning of August. So Sprite Jet, you're gonna need 3 of. Tier Element, Shirin, you also need 3 of. The rest of the Sprite and the Tier Element decks are in common, so they should be relatively easy to pick up for those cards, for those who want to play these decks, because like I said, they are going to be very powerful. So that's going to do it for this video. If you like this kind of video, because I don't usually go down and break down set stuff like this, you can let me know in the comment section down below. You can tell me what you think of the goatee archetype down below. I think the deck looks pretty fun. But that's about it. And if it is your birthday today, happy birthday. If you want to send me any gold deck profiles or replays with any deck or any card that came out in Power of the Elements, you can send them to JankyYGO at gmail.com. And of course, and as always, have a wonderful day.